I wanted to do this review ever since I started this channel. It is a review of an amp that I absolutely adore and always have a secret trick somewhere to even surprise me even more. Recently, I looked at what amps I'm going to buy in the future and stumbled upon the M5si for 1,600 euros. I even saw it somewhere for like 1,500 euros. It's been 9 years since this amp was released, exactly 9 years. It was released in December of 2015 and it still is a strong competitor for all the newcomers on the market. But not just that, I believe there are not many amps in this price range that can challenge the M5si, if there are any at all. And it got me thinking, as power, strength, quality and precision is at this high level, especially with its incredible 150 watts in 8 ohms, this is easy for most people an endgame amp. And not just that, all other endgame amps that I consider have the quality to be endgame amps are much more expensive. So is this like the most affordable or cheapest endgame amp? Yes, absolutely it is, unless you need an amp to drive absolute luxurious top-end speakers. This one is going to drive anything with ease. As I said, 150 watts in 8 ohms and a super amazing 270 watts in 4 ohms. It is truly a strong man's amp, but it also delivers delicate, balanced sound that has enough room to breathe, but also strength and weight. Think about alternatives to get this much. You'll have to get something like Hegel H190, Yamaha AS1200, Denon PMA 2500 NE, Riga, Atos or Elicit, etc. I'm not saying that this is a better amp, obviously power and strength are not all, and some of them might bring some refinement, better DACs or clearer paths. But all of these amps that I have mentioned are much more expensive. Trust me, they are not that much better to justify the price. Not even close. And how does Musical Fidelity do that? Well, internally, the M5si is configured as two independent monoblocks with separate preamps. This is a very similar to configuration of the M6si, which, in the words of Musical Fidelity, is an endgame amp. So, two monoblocks sharing the same casework. The DAC is a mystery, so we don't know what they used inside. I kinda don't like that. I like when deciding on an amp to know what DAC they used inside, but many companies still don't do that. Input and output are modest, honestly nothing special at this price level. For today's standards it can even be considered poor. You have 4 line level inputs, a phono input and a USB-B input. It is a 24-bit 96 kHz connection, and you also have a pre-out. What I miss here the most is an XLR, the balanced inputs, as these days I prefer balanced connections when it is allowed to use. As you can see, the list is rather short and it lacks many digital inputs. The DAC inside is not the most versatile at all, as back in the day embracing integrated amplifiers with DACs inside was not such a common idea. Kind of keep it up to date, adding an additional external DAC could be a great idea, as it will give you versatility to match newer amplifiers. But also, in my opinion, the DAC itself is probably the weakest point of this integrated amplifier. Adding even a 500 euros DAC, or if you want to spend big, 1000 euros, you get sound that matches easily even the amps I mentioned earlier, as close competition of this amp. Not to say that the DAC inside is bad, it is good. It must be good, as it's tasked to process, clean and organize this strong man of an amp. But nothing beats a quality external DAC for instant improvement of sound for cheaper. Looks, I really like them, especially in a grey color. It is a very minimal, like the entire idea of the amp, not adding much more than what is needed. But the buttons and the big volume button are well designed and organized so that they have the right proportions to fit this idea of cleaner approach and yet are easily seen and recognizable. All that being said, let's discuss why all of us are here, and that's the sound. The sound signature of this amp is treading the neutral waters, but with the hints of masculinity and darkness. And that is my favorite combination. Not that I don't appreciate and like other sound signatures, but to me, treading in neutral shoes open many doors for pairing and synergy, and it also declutters and shows details far more without overblooming and losing timing and speed. But this is not your traditional neutral balanced amp, as it colors a little bit below 600 Hz, giving the instruments weight and presence that expands mostly in the lower mids and bass, which is great. It definitely is an amp that benefits rock or electronic music, something that has driving qualities that benefits from a larger presentation. But to paraphrase again, this is not a warm amp, so don't expect groundbreaking deep weighty bass and smooth lower mids. This is a balanced amp, so the pleasures of a quality midsections are real. The details we hear are clear and super vivid. There is an inherent richness to be heard that allows instruments to have a better shape and be more rounded on a soundstage, just giving them rich textures to it so the instruments feel alive. I love that percussions and strings have enough time to evolve and end, but with higher production, the textures around instruments become palpable. These details show how this is a serious audiophile gear. Also, vocal reproduction is awesome. It has weight and presence, but also tonal accuracy. And because it strives for the right tonality, it is not the most forward and showmanship-like. It is more subdued in perspective to how some ultra-detailed amps push. But when you have a quality audiophile gear that separates this well, vocal is going to be firm in the center. It is going to be separated from the crowd, having its lane paved for him and for you to follow and enjoy. But I cannot stress enough how this amp feeds quality speakers with decluttered, weighty and detailed midsection. If you pair this with rich speakers like Dolly's, the joy is never ending. From vocals to instruments, listening with this amp was fun, emotional experience that you do not get that much often. And don't forget the bass, as sometimes the problem with these more balanced amps is how they present bass. And M5si is there to represent it with speed and attack. And it does a wonderful job into having this grounded, powerful presence that super complements neutral presence. I spoke at length how much I enjoy the sound signature, but it is super noticeable when you listen to a lot of music with bass guitar. The pluck of strings is noticeable, it has textures and is full and fun. In galloping bass from listening to something like Rolling Stones, you definitely see benefits of having this amp in your synergy. It is fun, has attack and details, and just cuts through layers in production. But if you look for dominant, big, massive bass, this might not be the best option for you. To be honest, side by side with Marant's Model 50, it just does not have this weight and grand scale and scope. Marant's also is a bass that is full and just seeps into a midsection and creates a wonderfully smooth presentation. That can be said also for treble. I loved the clean presentation of treble and how it does not color or seep too much into midsection. It is more laid back, and if you are a fan of overtly punchy, forward and very detailed treble, just get speakers that are bright. Just kidding. Sure, it does help with synergy with bright speakers, but if you are a fan of more forward presentation, it is good to taper your expectations here. Are there details? Yes. Do they separate well? Yes. But they do stay in the back. They don't expand sound so much vertically, and they don't feel like a drummer just came into your house to do a live drum solo. As far as pairing goes, it is easy to say that this amp is very servile and always easily ready to integrate into any system. Usually I like to comment here on what kind of system I gravitate towards with gear that I review, but I noticed that this amp complements any kind of speakers. Maybe I personally prefer a bit treble-rich speakers or a very mid-section rich speakers like Dali or Kef, but warmer speakers, balanced speakers or bright speakers can synergize with this amp easily. It is just what kind of cocktail of sounds you like the most. I prefer those neutral that lean to brightness with this amp, but anything goes, honestly. And to even further explain my joy with this amp, I have to explain two listening scenarios I experienced with it. First one is a very dynamically rich composition of Skies of America by Ornette Coleman. It is an album right after his avant-garde masterpiece, the science fiction. But this one is a bit different as it tries to be this futuristic, almost like compositions for a movie. Having this classical music that is being filtered through jazz and avant-garde arrangements to create this grand orchestral, almost biblical in proportions experience with strings, percussions and pianos going from the lowest notes to the highest notes, requiring experienced dynamic rich gear to fully experience it all. And oh boy, did musical fidelity help your system deliver that. It was firm, very focused in both bass and treble, not losing itself in a very complex compositions, always presenting a lot of details and yet separating this into listening compartments on the soundstage to always remain rich and clean. It is a joy to listen to something like that from beginning to end and not feel lacking in any way or shape. Is it contrabass pounding and brooding in the background? You can hear it. Will its soaring violin announce the coda of composition? It always felt that musical fidelity with other talented gear manages to shape and control so it doesn't sound distorted or completely tonally off. Just an amazing experience. But if these more strange sound signatures, complex arrangements and avant-garde executions are just not your cup of tea, let's take something emotionally charging, something where vocal is the star and an anchor of all compositions, someone with powerful and distinguished vocals. I listened to the newest album from the Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, The Wild God, and that album is a pure, unfiltered emotions. And to get this right, it is all about pairing, as I cannot say that all of this falls on the amp. It also requires you to get a bit forward and open speakers to get this experience. But it did allow Nick Cave's a bit raspy, bit baritone vocals to have weight and presence, and yet cut through composition, be a star, be a showman to carry emotional weight of the song, like Wild God or The Song of the Lake. The sound is very ethereal and synth heavy, so it is important that the amp and speakers are able to declutter and separate midsections here, but not iron it out so it feels flat and neutral. And this amp does this with the flying colors, as it allows everything to be heard and analyzed clearly, but also to feel the emotions and the richness in vocals, to feel and sympathize with what is happening in the song. The closest alternative to this amp, which is new and modern, is definitely Arcam A25. These two amps are very similar in sonic qualities, but there is something that Arcam does much better. If you want a sleek, modern device with a great DAC and a big versatility, including great inputs and outputs, if you want modern variation of M5si, so yeah, this one is definitely more for you than musical fidelity. Let's just quickly discuss Arcam's sound signature and quality. Arcam also can be considered a more neutrally balanced amp, but while musical fidelity tends to add a bit of weight to its sound, I think Arcam adds a bit of brightness, so it is rhythmically a bit more capable than musical fidelity. It is a G-class amp, which is a more efficient AB class type of amplifier, and as such it truly delivers clean sound, a really delicate way that separates instrument, that leaves great clarity and transparency in the process. It truly is a detailed amp that leaves a lot of room for breath and soundstage expansion. It comes with a really great 100 watts in 8 amps and 165 watts in 4 amps, making it capable of driving a large variety of speakers. And it looks nice with its accents of yellow on the back. But, as I said, the sound is very comparable between these two devices. But I will try to highlight differences and what does one do better than other. First, the most obvious one is just sheer power between them. Even though it is not a con for either of these devices, it is obvious that M5si packs far more power and is capable of unparalleled drive in this price range. 150 watts in 8 ohms, 270 in 4 is just massive. But speaking about massive, if you want bass, it is more commanding definitely in musical fidelity with more precision and weight. But if you want rhythmical consistency, more presence in treble, you can go with Arcam. There was a tad bit better tonality in musical fidelity, while Arcam preserved a bit more transparency and clarity. And also, Arcam's soundstage feels a little bit fuller, bigger, and just have a bigger vertical and horizontal spread. I can start picking these small differences, but these are amazing amps that deserve your attention. And by your preferences, one will be more for you than other. As you can see, there's a lot to love about both, and they're very similar devices sonically, and one can be for you or the other, but both bring tremendous value in their respective price ranges. If you want a neutral amp that is super versatile with a hint of treble curve, Arcam might be for you. If you want an amp that can drive anything, that has presence and focus, that is detailed, musical fidelity might be more for you. And to even better understand them, I highly recommend that you go and see my reviews for Arcam A15 and for musical fidelity M3si. I think those devices are really also awesome and they're very similar, and the links to those reviews will be down below. The conclusion is that while budget options are every year getting better, offering more than their predecessors, the fact is that there are constantly new great options appearing on the market, but the market and innovation are pretty much stagnating, especially in mid-fi or luxury like high-end. Except for getting more versatile DACs, more future-fi integration with streamers, sonic qualities are stagnating for some time. This amp is 9 years old, soon it will be 10 years, and still it is extremely competitive on the market, so much that it easily challenges everyone in its price range. It is not modern, it is an amp that delivers the most important thing, and that is sonic excellences at an all-around dynamic scale, quality that exceeds its price range and is capable of rivaling pricier amps. Excellent details, tonality, soundstage, separation, abundance of power, great bass is what you get, and you will be amazed. So definitely, musical fidelity M5si is still, after 9 years, really worthy of your attention. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. Keep daydreaming and see you soon. Bye.